You ever seen a judge hand down a 125-year sentence to a mother who called the cops on a burglar, like she was the one breaking into her own house? Yeah, that happened. But you know what really twisted the knife? He did it with a straight face, didn't even blink, completely unaware that the woman he was sending away for life just so happened to be the mayor's daughter. Let me back up a sec. Her name was Alana Brooks, mid-30s, single mom, worked 2 jobs, still made time to show up for every school play, every parent-teacher conference, every scraped knee and science fair. To her son Malik, she was a superhero. Not because she flew or had laser eyes, but because she showed up. Every time. It all started with a school meeting. Malik had stood up for a classmate who was being bullied, shoved the bully off and told him to back off. Instead of praise, the school labeled him aggressive. Alana walked into that meeting expecting a conversation, walked out with fire in her chest. You could see it in her eyes as she buckled Malik into the car. She knew they were never going to give her boy a fair shot, not with the way they looked at him, not with the way they talked down to her. That night, she stayed up reviewing the school's incident report, highlighting every contradiction, every lie, determined to march into that principal's office the next day and demand justice. She wasn't just a mom, she was his shield, his sword, his whole army. But the universe had other plans. Her phone rang. It was her neighbor, frantic. Someone had broken into her house. Alana floored it, barely remembered how she got home. What she did remember was busting through her front door and seeing a stranger in her living room, rifling through drawers like he owned the place. She screamed, grabbed her phone, called 911, hands shaking so bad she dropped the phone once, but then everything went sideways. When the cops pulled up, lights flashing, sirens screaming, they didn't go after the intruder. No, they tackled her, threw her to the ground like she was the threat. 5 white officers shouting over each other, barking orders, handcuffing her before she could even say, "I live here." She screamed for Malik. He was on the porch, frozen in fear. "Mommy!" he cried, tears cutting down his cheeks. One of the officers held him back while another shoved her into the back seat of the cruiser like garbage. And the burglar? He ran out the back door. Never caught, never even mentioned in the report. Now, fast forward, courtroom packed, the air so tight you could choke on it. Alana sat at the defendant's table, wrists cuffed, lips trembling. Across from her, Judge Harold Whitmore, white, mid-60s, looked like he came straight out of an old Southern courtroom drama, stared down at her like she was filth. "You endangered your child," he spat, "and the court will not tolerate such irresponsibility." You'd think she'd killed someone. Her lawyer, a public defender barely out of law school, didn't say much, barely could. The DA painted her as a hysterical woman, prone to violence, who escalated a situation and failed to comply with lawful orders. They threw every coded phrase they could. Aggressive, unstable, combative. Alana didn't even get to tell her side. And when the judge dropped the hammer, "I hereby sentence you to 125 years in state prison," the room gasped, not just in disbelief, but in horror. The thing was, Judge Whitmore had no idea who Alana's father was. See, back in the gallery, sitting stiffly in a gray suit, was Mayor Elijah Brooks, a man who'd spent 3 decades fighting for equity in a city that pretended racism ended with a handshake. And in that moment, he wasn't the mayor. He was a father watching his daughter be erased by a system he thought he'd reformed. But that moment, that was the end of their silence. Within 48 hours, a rally formed outside the courthouse. It started with a few signs: justice for Alana, end sentencing bias. But it spread like wildfire. By the weekend, national media showed up. CNN, MSNBC, even Fox tried to spin it. And then came the twist no one saw coming. Alana's lawyer discovered a pattern. Judge Whitmore had sentenced black defendants to an average of 3 times longer than their white counterparts, even in similar cases. One report showed he'd dismissed charges against a white teen who assaulted a cop, but sentenced a black teen to 10 years for shouting in school. It was undeniable, systemic, intentional. Alana's case became the tip of the spear. The mayor, once silent, stepped to the mic with fire in his voice. "We will not let my daughter, or anyone's daughter, be buried by injustice. This judge will answer for what he's done." Meanwhile, in her cell, Alana refused to break. She missed Malik like air, clutched his photo at night, whispered to it like prayer. "I'm coming back to you, baby." And then, something incredible happened. A local pastor, Reverend Myra, took to her pulpit and told her story. Turns out, Whitmore had sentenced her nephew to 40 years for stealing a backpack. Same judge. No remorse. One by one, more victims stepped forward. Parents, teachers, even a retired bailiff. What had started as a personal tragedy exploded into a national reckoning. The governor called for an ethics review. The DA's office, under pressure, reopened the case. And when the new hearing came, Alana stood tall. Her shackles were off. Her father stood beside her. Reverend Myra sat in the front row, gripping a Bible like a sword. They brought in experts on sentencing disparity, showed the data, the stats, the prejudice carved into every decision Whitmore made. Then Alana spoke. "I'm not perfect," she said, "but I'm not a criminal. I'm a mother. I called the police for help, and they treated me like a threat, not a victim. And now I've spent a year behind bars while the man who robbed me walks free." Her voice cracked. "But I won't let my son grow up believing this is justice. I won't let anyone's child believe that." By the end, there wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. And then, after 12 hours of deliberation, the ruling came down. Sentence vacated. Alana collapsed into her father's arms, sobbing. The crowd erupted. Reporters rushed forward. Malik, now 9, waited outside holding a handmade sign. "Welcome home, Mom." She knelt in front of him and cried for what felt like forever. But this story didn't end there. The city council launched an investigation into all of Whitmore's rulings. Community leaders formed a coalition for court reform, and Mayor Brooks, no longer hiding behind political caution, led the charge. As for Judge Whitmore, he resigned in disgrace 6 weeks later, tried to spin it as a personal decision, but nobody bought it. Alana, though, she didn't just return home. She started speaking. At schools, at rallies, at legal conferences. She told people, "I called for help and they tried to erase me, but I survived, and now I'm here to make sure no one else has to." And the final scene? Picture this. A warm summer afternoon. A small crowd gathers in a city park. Alana stands on a raised platform, Malik by her side, holding her hand. Behind them, a banner flaps in the breeze. Truth wins. Justice rises. She looks out over the crowd and says, "This isn't just my story. It's ours. And we're not done yet." Fade to black. Now let me ask you, do you think that sentence was ever about justice, or was it about power? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is the system broken beyond repair, or is there still hope for real change? Have you seen something like this happen before? Let's talk. Let's fight smart. Let's keep going.